Hey everyone, James here with the High Performance Health Podcast. I'm joined with Andrew, and today we've got a client of the program on with us, Tim. Tim's been with us, I believe, since November 2023. I believe it was when you joined us, Tim, first of all.
Correct.
That's correct. And, it's been a very successful journey for you. I've got a few stats in front of me right now. One of the main things for me on this program, obviously, for guys coming in, you came in at 263 pounds. I know that we've gotten you down to the lowest at 216. I think you're a couple of pounds heavier than that right now. But before we dive in and talk about your journey, the one thing that I kind of wanted to start off today was to say thank you, actually. I've been a coach for 20 years and I've worked with thousands of people and people, who want to achieve X, Y, and Z. And you're somebody that really sticks out in my mind quite strongly at if you listen to what you're advised to do, if you follow and implement everything that you're advised to do, then you can achieve big things. There are a few things that I want to share with everybody listening as we approach a little bit later on, in terms of sort of transformational photos. And also, one big thing for me as well is calorie tracking. And I was just looking back at your calorie tracker. And as I've always said, anybody that's been super successful on this program, it always comes down to calorie tracking when it's weight loss. But let's kind of start at the very beginning. What initially brought you into the program?
So a little over a year ago, one of Andrew's podcasts kind of caught my eye. Uh, Busy executives having a hard time with their health, with their fitness. I've been a very active person my whole life, but my job kind of got in the way of some of my priorities. And honestly, one day I looked in the mirror and I was just like, "Yeah, that's not the person I want to be." But there was one statistic that really stuck out to me, and I've repeated this to both you and Andrew, is that's the stressful, sedentary lifestyle of executives. The average lifespan is between 69 and 72, and I turned 60 this year, and I was like, that's not what I want, or I think I have a lot of life and a lot of good and a lot of things I want to accomplish. And I've always been super active, and it's funny how it just went away. I tried to turn around a company, and I've been successful at that, but at the cost of my health and uh, my longevity. And so I wanted to kind of swap that out. And I'll say both of you, we're really you, James, have been just quite empowering on how you've helped me do that. It's what's amazing is you never tell me something I don't already know, but then I listen to you guys' podcasts and I realize there's a lot of knowledge behind what you're saying. When you guys, just even last week, when you guys start talking about the different proteins and just quite a few other details, so there's a lot of science and knowledge behind the advice that you're giving. But really, it was just a decision. I looked in the mirror one day and I just said, "This is not what I want to be." And it just so happened I caught Andrew's busy executives, and I was reading about it, and then I had a talk with Andrew, and that's what sold me. I just the whole idea of hiring someone to help with my health had never really crossed my mind. And ironically, now my wife has a same program. It's not your guys' program, but it's a very similar program. She's had great success as well. So I never thought I needed a personal trainer. But yet now I don't really see how I could ever survive without one. So it's been a great story.
That's great to
That
hear.
was the one single statistic that just hit me, that hey, I might only have 9 more years to live. That's not acceptable.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, ultimately, our goal here is to help people add a quality decade, hopefully more. And obviously, with some of the changes you made, Tim, I don't think there's any doubt that's probably been the case. Um, when it comes to maybe some of the things you were struggling with, kind of coming in. What were some of the kind of bigger challenges coming in, and even when you got started? Obviously, switching a lifestyle and transitioning from
even less focus on health to more focus on health isn't the easiest thing in the world. But you got off to a pretty good start, maintained a good level of consistency. What kind of helped you, or what were you struggling with coming in and then starting off, and what helped you get consistent and focused?
So I've there was a couple things. One is I've always done a ton of cardio, not strength. Yeah, I've done a ton of triathlons. Well, this was, 12 years ago. And I've always, for the last really 30 years, I've always focused on cardio, running, biking, swimming, really been the three big ones. And your program is really stressed. You need strength training. It's not the cardio will come, and you can get cardio in the gym lifting weights,
Yeah.
but you need strength training, you need flexibility training. That's been a huge thing. And I've done all that stuff, but what's really neat is you guys, James shifts it up every 3 weeks. I'm doing different exercises. And it's for me, it's one thing I don't have to think about. I just pull up the app and I just say, these are the exercises. But some of there's a goal in mind, and I get reminded of that goal all the time. Be the best you physically and mentally, and I think that's good. I have the 2 week check in every 2 weeks. That's a reminder of what is the goal that you're searching for. But then the other is, it's easy to go out, and I do a ton of business dinners, and it's easy to go out and just totally destroy your diet on one of those. And what's really helped is I don't have to stop doing that. Matter of fact, I don't think I could stop doing that. That's just part of the role I play. But what it teaches me is, breakfast's got to be light. It's all about calories. It's physics, right? It's energy in, energy expended. So, I need to probably have a really light lunch. I need to have a really light breakfast. If I know I'm going to have a couple drinks at night, you got to save for that. We don't need some of the biggest things I've done is I really focus. You guys have also taught me on the whole protein thing. I'm kind of a carb freak. I love carbs. I love cookies. I love bread. I grew up that way, and that's not really a big, good, healthy diet. I would have carbs every meal, and now I really don't. A solid protein with some really good vegetables. That's an easy choice. I don't mind doing that. And just, hey, the bread at the beginning, you just skip that. The appetizers, you skip that. But I think it's you guys remind me on a daily basis, really daily. And James is actually pretty good about daily and weekly. Hey, your weight's up. Hey, what's happening? Hey, what can I help you with? I've not done your meal plan, but I really stick hard to the macronutrient side. And quite
Yeah.
honestly, the protein is hard to hit. It's
Yeah.
it's it's hard.
You don't do that
I,
by
I,
accident.
yeah, I don't like to do shakes. I don't
Yeah.
like to do just protein powder and water. I don't like that. But that's I've never eaten enough protein. I always think that's why in my family I'm the runt. I'm the skinny little kid in my family. My brothers are all huge. I think it's because I got the least amount of protein because they all took it from me. But so I had to eat bread. But no, it's the changes that have happened is I don't mind going to the gym. And I think it's because the workouts are 40 to 50 minutes. They're not an hour and a half. An hour and a half's a lot for me. But a 40-minute workout, a 50-minute workout at the gym, that's a good, solid workout. And I like going to the gym. I've never not liked it, but in an hour and a half, it's hard. And then hotel gyms, you guys are very adaptive to giving me stuff I can do at a hotel gym, which is a little bit less informative. And on travel, that's a huge deal. That hey, here's some body weight stuff. Here's some light weights. So to answer your question, Andrew, I don't know. I was kind of around the block, but you constantly remind us of the goals of why we're doing this, and the goal is to get me, like you said, another decade, another healthy decade, not another decade, but maybe I got 20 years left, and in those 20 years, I can still go biking every day. I can run, I can swim, I can be active with the grandkids, I can do all that. Where before that was not going to happen.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
that's part of it.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
even as a fitness coach, I hire a fitness coach, and I was told by a mentor once, you need to be reminded more than you need to be taught. Um, so it's consistently being reminded. I mean, I have a coach that I check in with each week. I've been doing this for 14 years and it's my profession. But I'm still better when I have that accountability, when I'm being reminded, when I'm checking in with someone, when I'm, kind of, reporting back to them, whatever it is. So yeah, totally understand where you're coming from, Tim. James, sorry, I maybe cut you off there.
Yeah, and
No,
I was
no,
going to,
it's
sorry guys, I was just wanted to jump in just off the back of those points as well. When it comes to resistance training, Tim, you mentioned obviously, you like going to the gym. The importance, I think, of our app and where it's really successful, and I always push this with everyone, it's the principle of progressive overload. And if you don't respect that principle of each week at the beginning of phase one to the end of phase six, how have we made progression? Where can we continue to build from that? If you're going into the gym, and I've seen it hundreds and hundreds and thousands of times. You'll see the same person in the same place doing the same thing year upon year upon year, thinking, I'm doing good because they're going to the gym. And don't get me wrong, they're doing some benefit, but unless you would respect that principle of progressive overload, and it's the same with the protein that you mentioned there as well. Carbohydrate is always going to be the easiest macro to overconsume. We can all live on cereal, toast, sandwiches, bread to mop up, your dinner in the evening and stuff like that, a piece of cake at the end of the day, cookie, whatever it is. It's so easy to overconsume. The one thing that I notice on this program is people, when you're trying to hit 150, 180 grams of protein, you have to really think about that. And, as the foundation of building muscle, being protein, the primary fuel source, if you aren't hitting those targets, I just want to just use this opportunity just to open up my screen. Similar, we've had Wade on here before, who's had very successful weight loss, similar to yourself. When you look back at the calorie tracking, it's exactly the same story. It's the
Yeah.
consistency month after month. And why's Tim lost so much weight? Because he's tracked his calories. And it really comes down to this more than
It's such,
anything else.
it's such a high leverage activity. I know it can be incredibly tedious at times, but there's not many things that you can get more leverage on than tracking your food for 10 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Like from a body composition and health standpoint, it's so high leverage, it's ridiculous. Um, Talk to us a little bit about the travel and schedule side of things. A lot of people obviously on the program travel kind of throws them out of routine, throws them off. What do you do to help focus on the travel? What's helpful? How do you, when you break routine, how do you get back into things, Tim? What sort of kind of things do you think about, or how do you try and keep that consistency as well?
so. Um, I have a yin and a yang on the travel side. So most of the year, my travel has been very successful.
Yep.
But again, it's awareness. So almost every day I travel, there's going to be a dinner involved. One of the things I've done on the dinner is I schedule all my dinners for 5:30. I will not go out after 5:30. So dinner, yeah, I'm not, well, I guess I am gray here. Um, it's a 5:30 dinner, which does two things. One, it makes us stop working at probably 4:30, so we can
Yeah.
get to the restaurant at 5:30, which lower, shortens the day, which means I can get in bed and get a good night's rest. So we go out at 4:30 or 5:30, and at 5:30 you don't, you know, you have a couple, maybe I say a couple drinks, but you're not super hungry, so you don't need appetizers and all this other stuff. So let's say it's a 2-hour dinner, you're done by 7:30. I'm back at the hotel by 8:30. 8:30 is a good time. I can do a little bit of work, I can calm down, I can rest, and I can get a good night's sleep and get up early the next day, which is typically what I do. Is I'll fly out, like at 4:30 in the morning to the next location and rinse and repeat. So that's one big thing I've learned is I schedule a very, very early dinner.
Yeah, that's
Two,
great.
I try and make sure all my hotels have a gym, and usually what I'll do is after dinner, that's when I go work out. I typically work out in the evenings, not in the mornings. There's a lot of reasons for that, but it just works better for my schedule. It's not better for my on the weekends. I work out in the mornings, but during the week it just works out better. I have more time in the evening than the morning because I'm usually up at 3 or 4 or 5 and catching a plane. So that's how I do that. And then lunch and dinner, or lunch and breakfast, what I really try and do is, even if I'm walking through the airport, I'll just pick up a protein shake. And then if I have time when I'm driving to the location, I'll try and stop at a grocery and buy some apples or bananas, and usually another protein shake, or I'll just buy like a chicken breast, something like that, just a high protein, and I'll consume that. And what's ironic is several of the people I travel with now, we kind of built into our schedule that we got to go to the grocery before we go to the hotel. And that's the best solution in the world. You don't hit a restaurant, you don't eat, non-dense foods. You just go to the grocery. It worked when I was in Denmark. It worked when I was in Germany. Those so that part of it's worked really, really well. The other thing I do when I travel is I try and make sure I go over on my steps. I have a personal goal. It's always 8,000 steps. So that's just that's my goal. It's not super high, but again, it's consistency, and I pretty much always hit 8,000. But on days I travel, I really try and bump that up. You're in the airport, you can walk, so it's convenient. Those are the two, kind of a couple big things. But I will say, and James knows this, the last like 2 months have just been insane. What I try and do at the end of the year is I try and hit all my customers, and we've had just a record year, so it's a celebration. Every night it's a celebration, and quite honestly, it's been absolutely brutal. Quite honestly, we're drinking a little too much. We probably, even though I'm not eating much for breakfast and lunch, we're probably overdoing it because it's a celebration, and every night it's a different group. So me and James's goal these last 2 months have been just try and maintain. Let's not lose anything. And some of the exercise has been skipped because I'm still getting my steps in, but the gym, because I've literally had that schedule where I'm up at 3, catching a flight. You're in bed by 9 or 10, but then you're up at 3 the next day to another flight. So it's just been brutal. But that'll end in January. We'll start back again.
One thing I just wanted to pull up there, Tim, was we have a lot of people traveling constantly on this program. There was a month, I've got the weight graph in front of me. I think it was the month of September.
Yep.
And Tim was traveling pretty much like the entire month, in and out of hotels constantly. I believe your daughter got married as well. And it was just a case of, okay, let's make a plan for the beginning of this month. And I said, if we can end the month of September at the same weight, I'll be super happy. He went from 222 down to 216 pounds in the month of September, basically living out of a hotel. So anybody listening to this that thinks I'm in a hotel, I almost use that as an excuse to not have to focus too much. You can see the progression that you can make, for spending 4 weeks away from home, not having access to cooking. If you're prepared to make the changes and go to the grocery store. I know you, Andrew, when you travel, you get a fridge in your room and stuff like that. These kind of thought processes, although it might be different, you're here because you want to change. You have to then adopt different ideologies in terms of what can make you successful to change.
100%.
So I think that was a really successful month.
I think you touched on an important point there, Tim, as well. Is you're going through this really busy period, and there's an acceptance of that. It's like, okay, listen, I'm not going to hit the same pace that I was 6 months ago when I'm traveling once a week or whatever that is frequency wise for you guys. But it's like I'm going to settle that, and it'll be dealt with in January, and I'm back to it. And when you expand your time horizons, I think a lot of people can get very short-sighted with their goals. It's, I had a bad month of travel, what's the point? Whereas it's, okay, this is a difficult 2 months coming up. Let's put myself in the best position, still do what I can, and then we refocus in January. As long as you have that plan on the other side and you continue to try and maintain some momentum, I think that's key. I mean, you can always control what goes in from a dietary standpoint, like you said, lighter lunches, lighter breakfast, grabbing some things from the grocery store. Even when exercise is completely out the window, there's things like that you can do just to try and stay in the fight. And that's kind of what I think we try to get people to a lot of the time. So it's great to hear that's adopted. To your point, I usually go I usually travel somewhere in the Middle East or the Far East for 6 weeks of the year. We'll do it again in April of this year. We're going to go to Shanghai, Hong Kong, and Australia. And I just live in a hotel for 6 weeks. And I don't cook a single meal. We just stay in a Hilton hotel because I've got a breakfast with them. And it's just, I get a fridge to the room and I go to the grocery store on the way. I do exactly the same as yourself, Tim. And yeah, it's not easy, but it's enough. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's sometimes all you need.
yep. No,
Absolutely. What one question that I'm always intrigued by with people that come into the program that are super successful is why do you think you've been super successful over the last year? What was it about everything that you've done? Because at the end of the day, the advice, the support, the guidance that I'm giving to you will be the same as everyone else. You, when with the people that I work with, have kind of blown a lot of people out of the water over the last 12 months with, the amount of weight loss that you've achieved. But why do you think you've been so successful?
so it's really funny because I never ever would have thought this, but I think it's the accountability.
Yeah,
You know,
I think it's
yeah, you guys all talk about that. I'm accountable at work. I think I'm a very responsible person, but I'm accountable to you, and you call me out sometimes. Hey, you didn't have a very good week. Hey, how can I help? It's usually very positive accountability. The other thing I do put a little bit of target on is you guys do a pretty good job of not making it hard. Like I said, I love the fact that my workouts change every 3 weeks. I love the fact that, I mean, I like to bike, and you'll throw some biking stuff in. You've changed it. For the first 6 months, I worked out in my home gym, and then you convinced me I need to go to the other gym, and we can do a lot different exercises. So you're working with me to develop a personal something that works for me. I like to work out at home. I've done that my whole life, but it's easy to work out home on a bike trainer or a treadmill. That's easy. And quite honestly, for the bike challenge yesterday or 2 days ago, whatever it was, I went to the gym and did it. I didn't do it at home. That's a mental and a physical change. I go to the gym now. That's my gym workout. Home is home. So that's a change in my perception. But I think if I had to put one thing on top, it's accountability. I look at the app every day. I know you're looking at the app, and you're holding us accountable. And I would have never thought that required. I needed that, but I honestly believe I do. I need to be accountable to somebody other than myself.
yeah.
100%. I think, like Andrew said, everybody needs it. I mean, I've been a coach for 20 years. I think everybody should have a coach. I really do. Because I really do believe it's the difference in just hovering around here, and really making some success. I think we all would benefit. And just on the back of that point, from all the feedback I had from the bike challenge, which I think was on the 17th, you were the only one that enjoyed that.
Oh,
I
really?
got a lot of aggressive messages. Yeah. My legs weren't designed. My leg, yeah, a lot of negative feedback. I said, "Oh, wait till it's 31 miles on the 31st."
Yeah,
Um,
we've got a nice challenge ready for the 31st. We'll keep that as a surprise though.
It's been fun. I've missed some of my workouts, but I'm trying to hit all the challenges. So
Yeah.
it did make me laugh. The final question for me, I don't know, Andrew, whether you've got anything, is what advice would you give to other people who are thinking about enjoying joining the program?
um, wow. So so to me, it reminds me a lot of the 12-step program. Unless you're ready to change something, you're not ready to take the program. It took a couple hits on my head, the whole life and the whole, sedentary lifestyle and the business lifestyle I was leading to say I need to change that. So to me, it reminds me a lot of the AA 12-step program. Unless you're willing to change, you're going to get the same results if you don't change. Um, but if you're willing to accept the advice and listen to it and execute it, the success is pretty easy. I was amazed at how I've done a lot of different diets, but I'm amazed at how much I have to eat to hit the targets and how not hungry. Now, you do have to change your food intake. You know, like you said, you can't eat cake and cookies, but you can have bananas, apples, and fruit, and as many vegetables as you can possibly eat. You really, and the portion size isn't bad. You know, you want 6 ounces of steak, have 6 ounces of steak. That's fine. Have two chicken breasts instead of one. That's okay. But if you want to change your life, I'd say this has been a great opportunity for me. And the advice I would give is you do need a coach. You need someone to guide you, because I'm sure you can look at me and say, "Oh, here's the problem," where it's going to take me months to diagnose the same issue. You've done this 1,000 times. You've been doing it for 20 years, and Andrew 14. So, you know, my big takeaway is, if you want to be successful, you have to hire a coach.
Absolutely.
Yeah, again, I reiterate the point. I get one myself, and I could be consistent. You know, this is what I've done for a long time. So, for me, it's more about I can be better. You know, I can get by on my own, like no problem. But I can just be better. And if I'm 20 to 30% better, if I'm 20 to 30% more adherent, if I'm 20 to 30% more focused, you compound that over 12 months, 24 months, that like the difference is just absolutely profound. So yeah, I totally agree with you there, Tim. Any final points for yourself, James? Anything else to kind of
No,
finalize?
no, that was great. Tim, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for jumping on.
Yeah, thanks. Really, really appreciate it, Tim. It gives obviously the people watching who are on the program an opportunity to kind of get a story from someone who's been successful. So really, really appreciate your time and taking that for us today. It means a lot. Thank you so much.
No, my pleasure, guys. Thank you.
Cheers,
Thanks very
guys.
much, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.